Thank you so much, Marshall, and hello, everyone. Today's May 28th, 2025. This is the Wednesday CalPADS Q&A, and my name is Matt Clark. I'm a data governance administrator at CSIS supporting CalPADS, and I'll be hosting the Q&A today. Driving documentation for us is Alex Thandy. But the end of year submissions opened on May 6th, and snapshots, reports, and certification errors are now viewable for all LEAs in all 4 end of year submissions. We're currently in the data population step of our CalPADS milestones, and the error-free milestone date is July 12th for the end of year submissions this academic year. LEAs should ensure that they've submitted complete data to CalPADS and have cleared all fatal errors by the July 11th milestone. And that was it for my announcements. Angela, any announcements on known issues, defects, or deployments to share today?
We don't have anything. We did have a deployment yesterday, and the active and fixed node issues is up to date, and that was all I had.
All right, thank you, Angela. And Sean, Dominic, CDE folks, any announcements?
I have one. So it's to the CalPADS administrators. So if you're an LEA CalPADS administrators, meaning you are actually signed off on the application from your from your superintendent or your charter school executive, you would have gotten a email link from us today. Thank you. I don't know who's driving, I'm sorry. But thank you for putting it up on the screen. So you would have gotten this email from our director, Liberty Van Naden, today, and it would include that survey link. The survey is focusing around attendance and your back end attendance coding within your LEA specific SIS system. And so for those codings, if you don't have access to them, we recommend that you are either forwarding this email over to whoever does so they can best respond to the questions, or you are assisting them in answering the questions and then just uploading the information with their necessary responses. This email, it went out due to that Senate bill requiring us to be able to collect the information. And so we're looking for specifics of students and absence codes related to typically like a natural disaster and how that gets collected. So again, if you're not the appropriate person to respond to the survey, we understand. We just ask that you, again, forward that email to them or assist them with understanding the importance of it. That's it for me.
All right, thank you, Sean. And Dominic, any announcements?
Yes, thanks to you and Marshall, the YouTube channel is now hosting the training video that we created for using CalPADS Monitoring Report 16.21 to identify your students that are on your annual determination letter. So it's not going to be this one. This is it's last year's. Sorry, Alex. Yeah. We duped you on that.
Whoops.
Yeah, third one down. And so I run through using Excel and Google Sheets to help identify students that may be still timeline non-compliant. Additionally, there is documentation in the CDE box site, the video guides. I'm going to drop a link to both of these in the chat right now. And there you go. So thank you to Marshall and Matt for getting this posted, and thanks for everybody's patience in getting this video out. I really appreciate it, and hopefully it's useful.
And thank you for a wonderful training, Dominic.
Thanks.
All right, let's go ahead and turn to the, go ahead,
Sorry,
Alex.
Can I interrupt you for a minute? I just wanted to also point out for people that didn't see me navigate in the user manual, Kyron posted it at the bottom of the mapping guide. So if you are already on the mapping guide for 1621, you just scroll all the way to the bottom and the video is there as well.
Oh, well, thank you, Kyron, as well. That's amazing.
All right, yes, thank you. Okay, now on to the questions here. So we've got a Q1 from Noel at 301. We have a high school student who started the school year non-compliant with admissions, so we were unable to collect ADA for that portion of their enrollment, but they were still enrolled and attending classes. The student recently became compliant with their immunizations, and we are now able to collect ADA. How, if at all, scenario affect their SENR record? In this Is this a case for the use of an enrollment status of 50 for any portion of their enrollment range?
This is a ticket, Noel, and I literally just hit send while Dominic was talking. So it's probably going through our firewall. I've responded back to your ticket. Thanks.
All right. And we have a Q1 from Marissa at 302. End of year 4, fatal errors, Plan 390E4 to Plan 397E4, missing transition indicators, are populating on a student that was found no longer eligible while 15 years of age during a meeting held in November. Students with disability status of 4 not eligible or 30 no longer eligible with an effective date of 11/2024 is posted in CalPads for the student. The student turned 16 last month. I could not find a known issue, and there is no active plan for the November 2024 meeting due to the exit from special education. How do I clear this error?
It's Marissa, it's interesting. We were just talking about this before the meeting started. It appears that the validation does not look to see whether or not a student is eligible and participating or has another status. So we're going to bring this to our requirements team and talk to Brandy as well. In the meantime, you can edit the plan that is in place just to mark no for all of those items. In the end of year data gathering, when we send this data to the Federal Department of Education, we don't look at students who are no longer eligible. So this should not be triggering in this way, and we'll look to figure it out. But in the meantime, if you'd like to clear the error, just mark no on the most recent plan record that's posted in CalPads.
All right. Thank you, Dominic, and thank you, Marissa, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Jennifer at 304. If a student is not allowed to attend the after-school program located at the school for a few days due to a discipline incident, is that considered an out-of-school suspension?
No, I wouldn't consider that an out-of-school suspension just based upon the information that you've provided. CalPads currently does not collect information on your after-school programs. If a student has committed a suspendable offense, that information should directly come from your administrator, identifying one, if it's an out-of-school or in-school suspension, and then also what was the incident per ed code that occurred, and then what was the offense that occurred, and then also, most importantly, the result that occurred. So those 3 files have to go in conjunction with each other, or you'll get like a multitude of errors. But based upon what you've just stated, I don't know what the discipline incident is. And so just them being not able to go to the after-school program, that's not part of the regular day program. So for us, it's not captured.
All right. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Jennifer, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Soraya at 305. That's a special education question for Dominic. Should all students found ineligible in their initial Part B have a status equal to 4 not eligible in the students with disability status record sent up as well as the meet record?
Yes, if you post a meeting record, CalPads is going to expect a status record to explain the outcome of the meeting. And so that status of 4 not eligible, and I believe it's non-participation code 21 not eligible, would be the appropriate codes for a student who was found ineligible. It looks like Alex is navigating the file submission scenarios, which would outline the expected data elements for an initial where a student was found ineligible.
Perfect.
I don't remember exactly which one it is.
A lot of scenarios.
Yes.
All right. Well, while
Yeah,
Alex is
it's one of these.
okay. Please
Oh,
refer to
here.
the scenarios document that Alex is displaying here for guidance. Looks like we were able to find the correct scenario.
Here.
It's actually the first one.
All right. Well, there you go. Soraya, please see the scenario for guidance. Thank you to Dominic and Alex for helping out in that answer there. Next, we have a Q1 from Ramirez AM, Ramirez in the morning, maybe, at 3:06. In CalPads, we discovered that an SSID assigned to a student in our district was also being used by another district. As a result, LPAC scores from the other district student were mistakenly attributed to our student. Our student's CalPads record is otherwise clean and accurate. What is the correct process to resolve this type of SSID conflict? And how can we ensure the incorrect assessment data is removed and properly reassigned to the rightful student and district in a timely manner?
There's a flash on this that has a whole grid sheet that Thor created. I want to say it referenced TK though, but it still goes for this scenario. The first thing you need to do is to be able to, one, submit a STARS report. But if it's not your student that was tested, reach out to the other LEA so they can get the ball rolling on their end so they can submit that STARS. You've got a mid student basically, and you want to be able to separate out that mid accordingly, but not disrupt the student's test record because it seems like the student's completed already, which is good. You just want that test record moved over to the correct student. Thank you. Is it Alex is driving or is it Gary?
It is Alex today.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you. So you want basically follow these steps because you want to disassociate the two students. So your first step is going to reach out to the other LEA so you all can codify time schedules and everything else. You also want to make sure it's not interfering with your testing for your student, especially like if they're doing some type of CAS testing. If so, and then that LEA should be able to delete no, they can't if it came back for LPAC or EL. So then you'll put in a ticket if so. So that way the CE can remove it for you
All
and
right.
associate to the correct student.
And Ramirez says thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you as well, Ramirez, for the question there. Next, we have a Q1 from Claudia at 3:06. Active case, I believe this is PM 7170. The status is fix available. What does this mean? Should we exclude the DC records from February like we did for, and I'm making the edit mentioned in the note here, like we did for September?
I could take that one, Matt. We've been working with CDE on coming up with a response. There's 3 tickets, you and 2 other folks, Claudia, that had that issue. And so we have a draft ready to go. And so we expect to hear from us either today or tomorrow. And basically they're saying, just go ahead and leave whatever those extra bonus kids you got, because they really are eligible. They were just identified a little prematurely.
All right. Thank you, Angela. And thank you, Claudia, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Lou at 3:07. Sorry, arrived late. Any announcements worth repeating? From the CSIS side of things, we had a reminder that all 4 of the end-of-year data submissions should be available for all LEAs, and the error-free milestone date is July 11th this academic year. So more of a reminder than an announcement on our end. The CDE had a couple of things to share. Sean, did you want to share just a quick headline?
Yes, basically, if you're a CalPads administrator, you received today. If you're not the appropriate person to respond to the email, please forward it to the appropriate person within your org and support them as best as possible.
All right. Thank you, Sean. And Dominic, did you want to provide a quick headline?
Sure. The video is now hosted on the CSIS YouTube channel for using Monitoring Report 16.21 to find the students on your annual determination letter. And I have an announcement I forgot to make is next Tuesday is the statewide virtual roadshow from 1 to 4 p.m. I'll drop the link to register in the chat in a moment. I'm going to right now drop the YouTube channel link in chat. I forgot about that earlier, so my apologies, but maybe more people heard it now.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Dominic. And thank you, Lou, for the question. We got one extra announcement today. All right, next we have a Q1 from Nalisa at 310. Do you know how long LEAs need to be idle in order to get a new revision? I know I've asked this before. I cannot remember. Sorry.
Well, you're not the only one, Melissa, because it's changed over time. So I always forget to. I think it's at least 2 hours. But the good news is nowadays we have the data discrepancy screen. And so that page does not require an idle time. So if you are, now Alex is navigating there now on this screen and you're making corrections, it just automatically goes in the queue and starts generating a new set of data discrepancies for you. And at this point in the submission, I'm imagining you're still at that phase where you are just resolving errors. And so not necessarily looking at your reports yet. So the revisions aren't as critical.
All right. Thank you, Angela. And thank you, Nalisa, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Karina at 311. If a student exited with an E410 and then came back, should their 181 program record start with an E410 start date or with the other start date? September 4th to September 26th was the E410 enrollment, and October 8th to current is the other enrollment.
They exited for medical reasons, but free and reduced, does anybody know if it's eligibility or participating?
It's eligibility, and if it's at the same school, I don't think you would have to close it and open it again.
Yeah, agreed, Gary. And so they could just leave it open. But if it's in the direct cert file, that was my other thing. If it's in the direct cert file, it's automatically gonna come with that date for you, so you're okay. But since it's an eligibility program, you're gonna go to our typical guidance, I think, goes to that original date. This is the one we can never find. Thank you, Alex. Oh, look at Alex for the win. Like she finds it so easily.
Yeah, there it is.
And that's the user, that's the data guide
The
that
data
Alex
guide.
is in. That's about 5 years old, 5 or 6. But it's still valid.
Still working on that for everybody.
Exactly. Yes, yes. Please note that because someone will ask. Yes.
Me too.
All right. All right. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Karina, for the question there. Next, we have a Q1 from Susan at 313. Where would I find documentation regarding the minimum minutes required for course credit for a high school course? This is not school day credit, but course credit.
I would say on the CDE website and put in minimum minutes in the search bar. Yep, thank you. Put in minimum minutes or put in course credit for either of those, Suzanne.
Right. Oh, that one's pretty recent. Looks like we got some new guidance.
That's the day though.
That is for the day. Oh,
And she's saying a course credit. Like I don't understand. I don't fully understand that, but it should be on it should be on the CDE website if it's applicable. I don't know if we have a minimum number of minutes for a course credit. We would have what courses are required in order to graduate high school, if that's what you mean. And then we have what minimum days, instructional minutes for ADA purposes. Not that I'm aware of, Suzanne, for your follow-up questions. Is there a seat time requirement for courses? Not that I'm aware of.
then
For
we got
CTE courses, oh, that's someone else, sorry.
Yeah, we did get a follow-up from Cami about CTE courses. So if you'd like to speak to that.
That's the public document that was released last year or closed last year in April. It's, I don't have the, I don't have the regional open, sadly, sorry.
Oh,
That's, it's on one of the last, nearing the last slide. There's a link in there. All the way, I'd say like 5 slides before the end. Right there. Next one, that middle link. Public comment, 300 hours has been removed per our federal audit. If you've got questions about that, that's going to be back on the PowerPoint slide at the bottom. Questions, you'll email perkins@cde.ca.gov for CTE.
All right. Thank you, Sean. And thank you, Alex, for helping with the documentation on that one. And thank you to Susan and Cami for the questions there. I'm going to come back to your Q2, Soraya. Yadira has a Q1 at 317. RFEP, question mark. On my 2.17, I have a student who was RFEP last academic year, but did not meet the requirements to be RFEP'd. Would we have to submit an error code in order to remove the language acquisition status? And would the student have to test? So I believe you would submit, if you have evidence that the student did not meet the requirements to be RFEP'd, I believe you would submit a new CELA record with a correction reason code populated there, which would explain the reason for the corrections. And I think Alex is navigating to our correction reason codes here.
I don't know that we have anything valid.
I couldn't
Oh,
find
there
it
it is.
either. Yeah, I think because you own the RFEP record, right? You manually enter that. It doesn't come from Tom, so you might be able to delete it. I'm a little worried because it sounds like you already certified that data, so you're going to RFEP them 2 years in a row, which is a little suspicious. But I think if you really wanted to, Yadira, you might be able to just delete that record and re-add it with a different date once they are retested.
I would ask that they truly, especially if it's coming from another district, do you have all the documentation to identify the student did not meet the requirements? Because it's something typically EL coordinators go through like kind of meticulously because they know their numbers count. So just ensuring that you have all of the information that's needed.
Right. And she says, exactly. Okay. Thank you. Based on the test scores and elevation, the student scored a 3.
It's not just based on test scores though. So yeah, I understand. So just reach out to the other LEA then, Yadira, and make sure you have all of that information. Something may have got it accidentally left out of a CUME folder.
All right.
But if not, follow Angela's guidance.
All right. Thank you, Sean. And thank you, Angela. Thank you as well, Yadira, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Rebecca at 318. Would it be possible to add the exit date and exit code to the SSID extract so that we can easily identify special education no-shows who may not be uploaded this year, and going forward with the new format of start date equals exit date in CalPADS for students with disabilities? My understanding is that otherwise they will not appear on a specific 16.x report.
Dominic, aren't there times where N470 students with disabilities do show up on reports though?
I would imagine so. The whole N470 thing kind of, I don't have an outstanding grasp of that. In fact, I was about to suggest using report 16.14 because it has the exit information, but it's possible that the student would not be pulled into that report due to that type of enrollment exit. So
I think they
I
should.
don't have anything off the top of my head on this one. I'm sorry.
What were you gonna say, Alex?
I was going to say that the N470s should be appearing in I thought in the end of year 4 reports, but I don't see it in the spec here.
But it doesn't say they're not reported, because usually if it says if they're not reported, there'll be like not
Yeah.
including N470s.
I agree with you, Gary. I think if you do a comparison of the 16.14 fall 1 and this one, I think the fall 1 specifically says no shows not included. I am pretty sure they're included because of child
Mhm.
fine, but I think it's explicitly said in fall 1. Don't make me a liar.
Yeah, I'll have to look into this and double check.
I've seen it
And-
somewhere, Nate. I agree with you.
And then Rebecca has a follow-up comment. They said it on the regionals call and in the SPED office hours that this was the new format. And I think she's requesting for that reason.
I'm wondering if there's another way to look them up though.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. If they'd be on like the non-participation 1623.
Yeah, but I wonder if the because Rebecca, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm gathering is that you want to make sure that you're changing the SWIT's exit date a day after, right? To make sure that they're included in the reporting, you're following the guidance. But if they are not, then they wouldn't appear on this report because it's the whole purpose of changing it.
Well, I think for the N470 it would be the same date. The day after would be for the graduates.
Right. Right. And so if you're looking to see, oh, you're right. Okay, never mind. I'm getting confused.
But the logic, can we confirm by looking at an actual report? Because it says open enrollment anytime during the period. Would the same day in for, yeah.
I just ran a 1614 and searched for N470 in the results, and there were no records. There were other, like E155 was populated, so I would have expected to find N470 if it had been in the report.
I am pretty sure that the new report for the meetings student list 1624 does include N470s.
Does it display that information?
Because no, it doesn't though. Yeah. Okay, maybe a ticket.
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you guys for investigating. And thank you, Rebecca, for the question. I do think a ticket for feature request is probably appropriate at this point. Next, we have a Q1 from Angela, not Ratty, Angela Matta at 319. Are there any end of year certification validations that would not appear as data discrepancies or vice versa? Or do the DDs display the same fatals and warnings as the certification validations, just in a more timely manner?
I believe they are both all synced up now. There might be an exception for a couple of warnings. And also for a couple of the fatals that are school-wide. For example, Cert 001 is an error that says, hey, you have an open school, but you don't have any kids enrolled this year. That only shows up on the certification detail screen. We weren't able to run that as a data discrepancy. So there's like 2 or 3 of those that only show up in the data discrepancy or the certification screen. And then I think there might be a couple warnings that haven't been added to the cert screen yet, but will be eventually.
All right. Thank you, Angela, for the question and answer there. All right, next we have a Q1 from Yesenia at 320. Does the CRSC require extension data such as the distance learning indicator?
Yes, if it's applicable. But I don't know what she means require extension. Oh, yeah, if it's a field within there for your distance learning indicator. also your independent study indicator. So yes, it is required, but it's required first in your CRSE. And then your CRSE should match your CRSC. One's the enrollment, one's completion.
I thought we weren't gonna do any validations against fall 2 and end of year though. Right.
We
Right.
don't, but it should still be there.
All right. Thank you, Sean and Yesenia. Lou, I will get back to your Q2 here once we circle back up. I have a Q1 from Heather at 321. What do I do about fatal errors on students who are no longer with us? But the SINF record went up by the other district, missing the parent, guardian, first and last name. They were coming on my fatal report. How can I fix another district's SINF record? And then there was some guidance from Sin in the comments there that I just added another SINF record and the fatal error cleared. So that sounds like good guidance from a fellow LEA. Would anyone like to add to Sin's guidance?
And Alex, didn't we land on if the SINF is overlapping your enrollment, you can edit it, even if you weren't the one that submitted it. So you might open it and it might have a different district's name in there, but I think it'll still let you edit it.
Yeah.
Right, and then Chris at 333 added your SINF record start date just needs to be after the previous LEAs. All right, moving on to Q1 from Lily at 325. Can you please provide resource information on how to determine expected graduation rate for English learner students?
I think Evan put in a good question
So
and
Evan,
information. Thanks, Ev.
yeah, follow-up question. Is this in respect to the annual parent notification for Title III? And then per sample notification letter from the CDE, California graduation rate for English learners education code. The expected rate of graduation for students in this program is a percentage. The graduation rate displayed on the graduate data report is available on the CDE DataQuest webpage. All right. Thank you, Lily, for the question, and thank you, Evan, for your support in chat there. Next, we have a question from Audrey. I do believe this is your Q1, Audrey, but if you could please make sure to put Q1, Q2 before your questions, it really does help us to order the questions here. But Q1 from Audrey at 330, can you confirm if end of year 1 and 2 will have an amendment period? In one of the training videos, it was mentioned that only 3 and 4 have an amendment window. We do have the same information for all of the end of years there. So there is an amendment window in 1 and 2. All right. Thank you, Audrey. Next, we have a Q1 from Shelly at 330. If a student is completing the highest grade at a school and the parents will not tell us where they will attend next year, should we exit them with E230 480 or E230 485?
E230 for, no, what's the E230? Matriculated? Whichever one is matriculated. If they're attending the highest grade at your school, you matriculate them out.
She's saying that she doesn't know where they're going though, Sean, and 480 is matriculated to another California public school and 485 is matriculated to somewhere outside of California. And I think it doesn't
Got it,
really
thank
matter,
you.
right? 480 is probably fine, right? I don't think we do
Yeah.
any anomaly checks on that to verify that they actually went anywhere. I'm not sure.
I can't remember if it shows up in the ERDs or not. I don't think so.
So the definitions speak to where the student is expected to go, not where they may defy expectations. They may attend a school that you didn't expect. And so maybe place what on local determinations you would expect them to attend after your school.
Um,
Pretty sure there's not an ERD that checks that.
Yeah, I was like, when I'm looking at it, I don't, the warnings and everything. No. Yeah, so I think you're good, either whichever one you put. I mean, I'd put E230 just to be on the, I mean, 480 just to be on the safe side. Um, and then if so, then you got to do your due diligence and follow up with uh where did that student go?
All right. Thank you, Shelly, for the question there. We're now finished with all the Q1, so I'm going to circle back up to Soraya's Q2 at
Hey, Matt?
314. Oh, yes.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but Nate found that 16.22 and 16.23 both include N470 students, and they display the enrollment exit date and reason code on that report. So you could use report 16.23 to identify the students that have that N470 code and compare the enrollment exit and start dates on that report to ensure that it's as expected.
All right. So, Rebecca, I hope you heard Dominic's guidance there. If we could place that in the thread for the question as well, I think that would be helpful.
I'm sorry, and then Shelley, I put in there and in the CalPETS user manual, we don't E230 for hundreds. They're not validated. It has the E230s that are, but that's not the 400 series isn't one of them.
All right. Anything else before we move on to Soraya's Q2? I saw Dominic come off mute.
No, I was just gonna say no.
Okay, thank you, Dominic. All right, Q2 from Soraya 314. Any chatter regarding CalPADS Tom's processing issues? One of our LEAs contacted us to share that a student is being flagged as not tested in Tom's, but they have been disenrolled in our local SIS and in CalPADS since late March. The student exit code was transferred out of the US, if that is a factor.
No, and no for any processing issues. I thought the date for it opened up on March 15th. All right.
I have taken a
All
few
right.
of those tickets and looked into them, and in most cases, even though the exit date was months ago, the actual transaction exiting them has taken place in the last 24 hours.
Right, so
So
then it hasn't had time to post yet.
exactly, it hasn't even in two of the tickets I responded to today, they had done it today, and it hadn't even gotten over to Tom's yet. So I just explained that to them, and they seemed satisfied. But yeah, you just have to remember there is a processing time and involved there. So you can put the data up there, but then it's going to take an overnight process to get it from CalPADS to Tom's, and then they have a 2 business day window to get that integrated into their system. And if you're in your testing window, Tom's and LPAC often lock the data to prevent CalPADS updates during the testing window. So you need to actually speak to them directly and say, hey, I made some relevant updates that I need allowed in, and then you define them and they go and find them. But there's a whole process there.
And then also, if this is an initial LPAC test, I see a student moved out of the country. So this is initial LPAC test. You had 30 days to be able to complete that, and that's valid then.
All right. Thank you, Sean and Paul, as well as Soraya for your Q2. Next, we have a Q2 from Lou at 320. The absence data collection inquiry references submitting local absence codes to state codes, but what are or where can I find the state code absence reasons?
And so again, that would be whoever is in charge of your SIS system, Lou. So I would connect with a lot of CalPADS administrators don't do the back end work. Someone in your IT department does. I was very fortunate that I had a job description that was written all kinds of backwards, is what I can do, the easiest way I can tell you. Uh, it said I reported to student services, but I reported to educational services and my office was in IT. Yeah. So I actually was able to complete that work. Most CalPADS administrators don't, so you'll need to connect with your IT person that typically does, or your fiscal person that does it. And again, those attendance codes that are being mapped on the back end, they're due to financial reasons. So I don't recommend you touching them. Where they're actually located, that's in your SIS system. So I can't tell you, I don't have that information to be able to share with you. But yes, someone at your LEA has it, and it's okay that that's not you. You just need to either forward the survey to them or uh, have them provide you the information, and then you can upload it. It'll probably be best though if you just forward it.
All right. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Lou, for the question. Next, we have our final Q2. So if you have any questions that are kind of lingering in your mind and you'd like to get them answered for the group here, please go ahead and get those in chat soon. We have kind of neared the bottom here. But Q2 from Angela at 3:34 regarding the guidance that Dominic mentioned in the CalPADS regional meetings to have the entry be the same as the exit date for N470 no-shows for special education reporting purposes. Is this relevant only for special education N470 no-shows, or is date guidance the same for all students as well?
I can't speak to that for sure, but I do know that this has been guidance since at least last September, if not before then. I can't say specifically if it is applicable to every student within N470. I apologize.
I think we landed on it's a local decision if you wanted to use the day before for non-SPED students.
I feel like it would be easier to do it all one way or all the other way.
I was just gonna say that that would be my preference. Just
And I have seen
don't-
weird things happen when you do use the day before too, and then when we change it to the same day, it magically clears. So I'd say your best bet is just to make them all the same day.
Works for me.
All right. Thanks for the teamwork there, everybody. Next, we have a Q1 from Terry at 3:44. Going back to an earlier response, it's always been my understanding that Fall 2 is completely independent and separate from the end of year submissions. This course section completion file may have courses that are not part of the course section enrollment submission in Fall 2. Would you please confirm? So I believe what Alex stated, that there are no validations that compare the Fall 2 and the end of year submissions, is accurate. CalPADS will not look at the course section enrollment files in Fall 2 and compare them to the course section completion files in end of year to generate any of the errors or any validation. So CalPADS would be okay with those two being completely independent, and that is the way that we've spoken to it in the past. I don't know if the CDE has any other kind of guidance regarding the connection between the two.
I think beautifully stated.
All right. Thank you, Terry, for the question. And that brings us to the end of the Q&A questions. I'll try to bide a little bit of time for you guys to get any final questions in, but we are kind of nearing the end of the hour as well, so it's possible that we've just exhausted all of the questions from the group today. And it doesn't look like we're getting any more. How are we doing, guys? We calling it? Angela?
boss.
I have one. Sorry, I was looking for Terry's a better answer or more comprehensive answer for Terry.
Okay.
And in the CalPADS file specifications, there's under the file layouts, there's a column that says required, and it's either yes or no. And on the course file, that one does double duty, right? It does course enrollment and course completion. And I think that was the original question. It's like sometimes those fields are required for Fall 1, but not for Fall 2. And that column does talk about that. So it goes over, it's either yes, it's required, no, it's not required, or if it's CRSE, it's required, and vice versa. So that's a good place to check.
It also has to do with your calculation for dashboard. information. So ensuring the data accuracy is simply that, just ensuring data accuracy.
Yeah, but it's things like multiple teacher code. We don't do anything with that for end of year. That's primarily just for fall two class
assignment monitoring.
size and assignment monitoring. And so it's not required for end of year, but it is required for fall two.
Oh, we did get another question in chat. And it's for you, Angela. Q2 from Claudia, 347. If I'm able to keep those directly certified students, will they be counted for Sunbucks?
That
Streamline certified.
yeah, that is a good question, Claudia. The answer I have from CDE does not talk about that specifically, so you may not get an answer from me today, like I promised you. I'm gonna send it back and just double check on that Sunbucks question, okay? And then we'll get back to you.
All right. Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Claudia. And she says, gracias. All right. We've once again reached the end of the Q&A. Try to get those questions. Oh, there we go. We got a Q1 from Jan. For the absence survey, is there a list of what categories they're looking for?
No, Jan, there's not a list of what categories they're looking for per the SB 153, though there is, and I mentioned that at the top of the call. They're primarily looking for natural disaster reasons. Sorry, couldn't think of it. Natural disaster reasons such as a fire, flood, those type of reasonings, so they can detail and go through there and be able to best identify. But if they want to just send us all, sometimes it's easier so they don't have to segregate everything out. If for mine, I could pull it in an Excel sheet from Aries and it worked just fine. I honestly, I'd pull it out of the Excel sheet and go with it instead of trying to itemize and go through line by line. However, it's not something it doesn't have any student data in it. I'm not trying to hide it, and go for it.
All right. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Jan. Next, we have a Q2 from Shelly. I believe we've had a similar question, so maybe we can kind of provide the guidance pretty quickly. Where can we get a list of state code for absence reasons?
There is no list of state code for absence reasons. There is what's in statute as what's excused and what's unexcused. And again, that's where typically either your CBO and your child welfare and attendance monitor. Your child welfare and attendance monitor legally has to know this information. And so that's why I go back to typically it's going to fall on your CWA. That's the person that is, when you look at that job description code within CalPADS, like it has a compliance issue to it. So they're the person that typically maps that out along with like discipline, again, because those have statutory requirements that are listed to it. And they have a book. I had a book that the pages was falling out. That's how old it was, but it very rarely changed. And it was my go-to.
Right. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Shelly. Next, we have a Q1 from Sin. More of a request, I think. Can you include me in that? I believe that email, Angela. I had issues with my February direct certification extract and would like to know regarding Sunbucks.
Yeah, so question for Sin, did you put in a ticket? Like I said, there was 3 tickets total. So if you were among that 3 already, you will be included.
She was
in that
one of the
response.
3, Angela.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, and we'll get you included in that response as well.
Awesome. And we got a request from Susan, me as well, please.
Did you have a ticket, Susan?
No.
So go ahead and put one in and reference your February just direct cert file, and we'll include you.
All right. Thank you, Angela and Sin, for the question. Next, we have a Q1 from Rocky at 349 asking what I believe is Sue Ann's typical question here. Is there an update to the new data guide?
You know, it wasn't specific, so they could have been talking about any data guide. But my answer, unfortunately, remains soon. I'm not making any concrete promises any longer.
All right.
Normally say like I ditto. Doms, I'm not doing that because I can't even say soon. It's in progress and that's all we got. It's sadly, it's not at the high priority list because most of the items are in the CalPADS user manual. So that's where I'd go shoot.
All right.
And the plan is to eventually put it in the user manual,
Everything.
right? The whole entire data guide will be in the user manual.
Yeah. I just didn't want to get locked into that though either. Angela, just in case for some
Well,
reason
I'm
we
just trying
can't.
to give them, a vision of looking forward. It's not always going to take this long that we'll be able to do pieces of it more in a more timely manner going forward once we do convert it.
All right. It's exciting to hear. Thank you, Rocky, for the question there. Next, we have a Q1 from Larney. For no-show exit and for 70, can you reiterate again why we need to exit the no-show students on the day of enrollment, and why do we want them to show on report 16.x? For scenarios where SPED students pre-enroll in the summer but change their minds, did not show up on the first day of school, will we exit that enrollment with our first day of school? Or we will exit that enrollment with our first day of school, correct? What if the exit created a CCE with the LEA they decided to attend? Should we delete our enrollment?
Well, to answer the question, why do you want the students to show up on report 16.x? I would say, why would you not want them to show up? I mean, for federal reporting, it's important that this information is reported for these students and posted. However, that N470 being a day earlier than the enrollment start date would cause that student to be excluded from those reports and potentially interfere with accurate end-of-year reporting for your federal data. Additionally, my understanding is that an N470 would not create a CCE, but I will let the experts address that.
Correct. That's right.
CalPEDS is smart enough on that end, and for 70s, no matter what date, will be nullified.
All right. Thank you, Alex and Dominic. Oh, follow up in the same thread there. A one-day enrollment requires us to adopt a plan for a student that never attended for no-shows. I guess implicit, is that correct? I could be very confused.
I don't know that that's the case. Does that trigger? Does SCNR 606 trigger on?
One-day enrollments, if
And
it's a primary.
if it's a primary one day, yeah, but in the context of N470s that we're talking
Yeah,
about.
N470 is a
Oh.
no-show. That means they weren't.
We have a handful of CDDs, Alex, right, that do trigger on N470s.
Audrey
I
notes
think-
that adoption is not required for N470s.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not 606, but aren't there some that we make a carve out for those? And it's specifically for students with disabilities.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm
I think you're right. I just can't remember any off the top of my head.
feel like I've sent a ticket to requirements more than once saying, why is this triggering on an N470? They write back, it's supposed to.
Well, Melissa wrote phew, which makes me think that's a satisfying response. And then she said, okay, I'm confused, which makes me feel like it may not have been a satisfying response.
I will say, at least for SCNR 606, you should not see that triggering for N470s if you do not adopt the plan.
Okay, she says, thank you, I got it. But it's worth it to go into the error and check.
I found one.
Oh,
SWIDS 621E4. So that's a little bit different. It's looking for an open enrollment on that one, right?
because the status is eligible and participating.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that reason, they should have an enrollment, an open enrollment.
Are we ready to move on? Do we want to keep looking through the errors?
No, I'm literally hunting and pecking, so we
Okay.
can be here till 5.
All right, next we got a Q1 from Rosa at 3:56. Do we need to go back and adjust all of the N470 dates? And then Claudia comment in that thread. I remember we were told to enter the day before the enrollment as an exit date for our N470s.
I would suggest yes, they do need to be adjusted. Our unit in special education is going to be addressing this with our data quality checks. So hopefully we'll be able to help assist LEAs that have these enrollment issues with that N470, identify those students. And as Claudia said, I think I talked about this exiting N470 the day before last, like May or June, but then we corrected that. We corrected that guidance at least by September and continued with that since then to suggest that it should be the same date.
Next, we have a Q2 from Rebecca at 3:57. This is going back to my request for my Q1. I still need the exit date and exit code on the SSID extract when I work on my SACE exception report, when I upload our SSID extract of the SWDS, because I have to export the students from our SIS for recent enrollments to get their exit date and exit code. If applicable, to know why they are appearing on my report and not found in SACE. I have to bump up my SIS export to the SACE exception report. Do I need to submit a ticket for the request?
Yeah, if you specifically. Sorry, go ahead.
go. Why wouldn't she pull a ODS extract, an SENR ODS extract, and then highlight all of her in, what is it, 470s? However, where the dates equal the same.
I don't know that
I
this
mean, it's gonna
pulls
take some
in.
calculation on her end, not on, once she exports it as a CSV. Can she do so back from the date range?
I'd have to look at the extracts.
I think this is a question specifically for using the SSID extract in SACE. And so if you were to request a change to that extract, then I do suppose a ticket would be the suggestion. Our answer was based on finding that information. So I apologize that I didn't answer that thoroughly.
Right, and I should also note that we have hit the 4 o'clock mark. I will continue to go through the remaining questions here, but if you do have to jump off of the call, we have reached 4 o'clock.
How about you use the CNR extract?
Center, yeah, that too. Thanks, Kai. That was gonna be my next suggestion.
Does it have
I was
the
waiting on
student with
Alex to see
disability
if she can
flag,
find it.
Kyron?
Yeah, because it has all the SENR layout plus the disabilities information.
But does it bring up N470?
It's an extract, so it should bring it up.
That's a good thought, though, Alex. The existing SSID extract probably doesn't even include currently N470s, right?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay, and so then that's what I was gonna say. I know we don't include it for a reason. I couldn't remember what the reason
Well,
was,
you
but
do have
then
a couple options to request that file, though, so I think you can go back in time. So it's not just active students.
Right.
oh, we can
Yeah,
do it
so
on
you
the
can do
center.
date
right?
range if, yeah, you can do date
But you
range
could
by
use
enroll
date
date.
range on this one, yeah. On the
Mhm.
CNR.
Yeah. I
You
just
can
didn't
use
know
that
if
instead.
it was looking at an open enrollment, if they would consider N470s as an actual enrollment during the year. But worth a try, I guess.
I feel like that might be easier than us modifying a report, just because I understand, Rebecca, why you're asking for it. But for us to modify a report at this late date, it may not be possible.
the cumulative enrollment extract doesn't have an exit date either.
But it includes the all SENR file layout elements, so that includes the exits.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
1 through 35.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kai.
And then you can do active date range too. The bottom, when you fill it out, there's 3 options. You have as of date, date range, and active enrollment or academic year.
That's the one we updated to
Yeah,
include
that
it,
one.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you just had to let us put like 5 brains together, Rebecca.
Meeting of the minds. All right. Are we ready to move on to Andrew's Q1? All right. Q1 from Andrew at 3:58. In regards to Sunbucks, I came across this page and he has a link to this to a CDE webpage and was wondering if additional guidance is going to be provided to LEAs on the approval process for the UBAs, the Universal Benefit Application.
Not at this time. There's a flash that we are working on to get out, Andrew, but not at this time. And I don't know offhand, I don't know if that link is or will be included. I'll take a note of this right now and see if it has a relevance to the flash. And if not, it should be posted at least somewhere on the CDE web. Oh, it's on the CDE website. There you go.
All right. And Andrew says thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right. And thank you, Andrew. Next, we have a Q1 from Lori at 3:58. Speaking of data quality checks, any further information on the data quality checks related to data accuracy for differentiated assistance in the 25-26 school year? We do not have any further guidance on the data quality criteria for DA yet, but as the different departments at the CDE become ready to support, we will release that guidance well in advance of the implementation. So you guys will have information on what the data quality criteria are for DA before you are subjected to that criteria.
And if you missed that information, Alex is showing you the regional presentation where Matt kindly presented on this information. I think you answered Audrey's question as well too.
Oh, right. And yeah,
Dominic.
Dominic
Dominic
answered in chat as well.
Yeah, it's basically the same answer. We're not sure yet.
Okay.
Sooner than later, I hope.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dominic. And thank you, Audrey, for that question. Next, I believe this will be the final question for the Q&A today. So we have Q1 from Trevette at 4:03. If a senior completes the school year with us, the school year ends on June 11th and has not completed the graduation requirements, but is expected to complete the missing requirements in summer school by July 25th. In CalPads, can we then update their last enrollment exit June 11th with the appropriate exit and completion code, or do we have to create a new enrollment once the student completes the requirement? For example, enter date July 25th, exit date July 25th with an E230-100.
And Alex knows this flash well, 274. And it goes over that, yes, you need to end date the June 11th enrollment. You need to put up the 1-day summer school enrollment. Post the, sorry, you need to end date the June 11th enrollment. You need to summer school, it ends, is that the end date or is that the beginning date? Can anyone discern that really quickly? The July 25th?
July 25th would be the date that they met the requirement. So they're asking if they submit the record with that as both the enter and the exit date.
If that's when summer school actually ends for you. And if that's when summer school actually ends for you, then, and they met their requirements by that date, then yes, you would put up July 25th. And for the 1-day enrollment, and then put up the completion status for that student. And that is outlined. Alex has the flash on the screen there. I
Flash
believe there's
274.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Trevet. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, Sean. And thank you, everyone, for attending today's CalPads Q&A. We will return next Wednesday, same time, same place. And we look forward to seeing you there. Dominic, do we have a special education Q&A coming up?
Monday is back to the regular schedule, Monday at 3 p.m. office hours. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much to my fantastic team for supporting in the Q&A today. Thank you to all the LEAs for attending, and we will see you next week.